Way down deep beneath the earth, in a massive coal mine in Colombia, there's a lost world. I mean, a literal 60-million-year-old rainforest, just perfectly preserved in layers of rock. It's the kind of place paleontologists dream of, and they went there looking for ancient plants and fossils. But what they found? Well, it was something no one could have possibly imagined.
You know, we all love those epic stories of giant beasts and mythical creatures. But what if one of them, one of the biggest, baddest monsters you could ever dream up, wasn't a myth at all? Well, let's dive in and uncover the incredible and very true story of a real-life monster that once ruled the ancient world.
So our story really kicks off right here at the Cerrejón coal mine. This entire place, as far as the eye can see, was once a sprawling, swampy, ancient rainforest. As paleontologists were carefully sifting through these ancient layers, looking for clues about the planet's first tropical jungles, they stumbled onto a fossil that would completely rewrite the story of life on Earth.
But this discovery wasn't some clean, simple eureka moment. Oh no, it was a long, confusing puzzle that started with just a single, really weird-looking bone.
When that first fossil was pulled from the ground, nobody had a clue what it was. Seriously. The experts were stumped. They debated back and forth. Was it part of a massive crocodile spine? Maybe some kind of weird fossilized tree branch? Its sheer size and just bizarre shape didn't seem to match anything they knew. And this confusion, it went on for years. The very first piece, found way back in 1994 by a local geologist, was literally just put in a box and pretty much forgotten. Then another one pops up in 2002. It wasn't until 2007 that these strange bones finally made their way to a lab in Florida where the real investigation could finally begin. And even then, a super important piece of the puzzle wouldn't show up for another 4 years. So, in a lab, a scientist has this breakthrough idea. They take the mystery fossil and place it right next to a vertebra from a modern green anaconda. You know, one of the biggest snakes alive today. And the fossil? It was 3 times bigger. In that exact moment, they knew. This wasn't a crocodile. It wasn't a tree. They were looking at a snake.
And not just any snake. This was the undisputed king of all snakes. A creature so ridiculously massive, it just defies belief. So let's break down just how enormous this beast, which they ended up naming Titanoboa, truly was.
Using the relationship between vertebra size and body length that we see in modern snakes, scientists built a mathematical model, and the numbers that came out were just staggering. Titanoboa could have reached a length of up to 50 feet. That is more than twice the length of the absolute biggest anacondas you can find in the Amazon today. Its weight? Even more mind-boggling. It would have tipped the scales at over 1.2 tons. That's about the same as your average family car. To put that another way, it's 10 times heavier than a green anaconda. A snake this heavy couldn't even exist on land today. Its own weight would literally crush it.
Just to really put that size into perspective for you, an average school bus is about 40 feet long. Titanoboa was longer than a school bus. This was a living, breathing, bus-sized serpent. Let that sink in.
An incredible discovery like this immediately raises a huge question for scientists. It wasn't just that it was so big, but how was that even possible? I mean, why don't we see snakes this big roaming around today? And the answer, it turns out, is all about the weather.
You see, snakes are ectotherms. You've probably heard the term cold-blooded. It just means they don't generate their own body heat like we do. They completely rely on the temperature of their surroundings to regulate their metabolism. So a warmer world means a faster metabolism, and that's the fuel for more growth. Titanoboa's body was basically a giant, living thermometer for its ancient world. For it to get this massive, its environment must have had an average temperature of at least 32 degrees Celsius. That's a super greenhouse, way hotter and more humid than even the Amazon is today. That constant, intense heat was the engine that powered its gigantic growth.
So we've got this enormous 1.2-ton snake living in a prehistoric super sauna. But what was its life like? How did it hunt? What did a predator on this scale actually eat?
Okay, first things first. Get any image you have of Titanoboa slithering through the jungle out of your head. It was way too heavy for that. On land, gravity was its worst enemy. So just like today's anacondas, it lived in the water. The buoyancy of those murky, swampy rivers supported its immense weight, letting it move with a truly terrifying speed and grace.
It was a classic ambush predator, a lot like a modern crocodile.
It would sink its enormous body just below the surface, with maybe only its eyes and nostrils breaking the water, and it would just wait, perfectly still for hours, maybe even days, waiting for some unsuspecting animal to come to the water's edge for a drink. And then, bam, it would strike.
And that strike was followed by a force that is almost impossible to comprehend. Biomechanical models estimate its constricting pressure was over 400 pounds per square inch. To give you an idea of what that means, that is the equivalent of having two full-grown African elephants stand on your chest. It wouldn't just suffocate its prey, it would shatter bones and stop all blood flow instantly.
So what was on the menu for a creature this powerful? Well, only other giants. Titanoboa hunted massive prehistoric turtles that had shells over 8 feet wide. That's the size of a pool table. And it hunted ancient crocodiles that would make today's crocs look like lizards. It was a true predator of predators, the undisputed king of its world.
And hey, remember that skull fragment they found back in 2011? That turned out to be the final crucial piece of the whole puzzle. It confirmed that Titanoboa had a jaw that could dislocate just like a modern anaconda. This allowed it to open its mouth wide enough to swallow prey 3 times the size of its own head. Just incredible. So you have this perfectly adapted creature, an apex predator with no enemies. So where did it go? If it was so powerful, why isn't Titanoboa still around today? The answer is actually tragically simple. The very thing that allowed it to become a giant, that super hot world, was also its greatest weakness. Titanoboa was perfectly built for one very specific climate, and when that climate changed, it just couldn't change with it. See, after the Paleocene epoch, global temperatures started to drop. For Titanoboa, this was a catastrophe. The cooler air slowed its metabolism down to a crawl, which robbed it of the energy it needed to hunt giant prey. At the same time, its swampy river homes started to dry up, and the rise of mammals brought new, faster competition for food. It didn't take an asteroid or a supervolcano to kill the biggest snake that ever lived. All it took was a gradual change in the global thermostat. A world that was just a few degrees too cold was a death sentence for this magnificent, terrifying giant. The story of Titanoboa is this powerful, amazing reminder of the deep link between our planet's climate and the life it supports. It was born from a superheated world, and it vanished when that world cooled. It really leaves us with a final and kind of chilling question. As our own planet begins to heat up, what kinds of giants might be waiting to be born next?